On that very first night, Tuck and I sat in my run-down gold Honda Pilot in a gas station parking lot with dimly lit fluorescent lights streaming through the windshield onto our faces. And I told him about how every day on my drive to high school, two things happened. I passed a house, and in the house's yard sat a small yellow camper. And I passed the on-ramp to the highway that, if I chose to take the on-ramp, would take me to Denver, or if I drove long enough, to Wyoming and Montana. I would dream about buying that little yellow camper and running away and experiencing the world. Now, 2 years later, a new dream has been born. We don't dream about being rich together. We dream about being poor together in a crappy studio apartment in some big city with our mattress on the floor because we can't afford a bed frame, and we never get any rest because the lights from the 24-hour convenience store across the street never stop flooding through the window. But every day when we get home from work, we turn on a record on our record player from college, and we dance and we jump together on our floor mattress, and even though we can't afford to buy a nightstand or a dresser, we still get tickets to our favorite concerts every time they're in town. Do you have a dream? What were you doing in the front seat of that Honda Pilot when I was having that conversation with Tucker? We met in my last semester of high school, and through the course of becoming best friends, we fell in love. And he taught me everything that I know about the world now. In fact, he was the first person to assure me that I didn't have to be looking out of a corner office down at everybody to be happy in life. He was the first person to tell me that maybe if I just chose happiness now, then success would follow. After meeting him, my new biggest fear became waking up at some point in my 50s empty, with a job that I hate going to, with relationships that I've neglected because of that job, and with a pile of money that I have nothing to do with and nobody to share with. That's why I'm here today, telling you why I think you should choose happiness over everything. After coming to Bentley, I felt this weight back on my shoulders. I realized that the epitome of success for a Bentley student is getting an internship at one of the big four, followed by a full-time offer. You work 70, 80 hours a week. You work up the ladder. If you're one of the lucky ones, by 30, you'll be considered for partner. And then what? Is that when you stop? Is that when you're happy? I had a conversation with a friend once who wanted to go into investment banking, which he acknowledged would make his life a living nightmare for at least 2 years. And applying my knowledge of philosophy, in which philosophers will often ask a question followed by a series of whys to see what somebody thinks has intrinsic value in life, the reason that we do everything that we do. And I asked him these questions. I said, why do you want to go into investment banking? And he said, because once I'm done, I'll have a lot of career mobility. And I said, why do you want a lot of career mobility? Well, so that I can make a lot of money doing whatever I want. Why do you want to make a lot of money doing whatever you want? So that I can buy nice things, travel the world, Why do you want to buy nice things and travel the world? Well, because I think it'll make me happy. Why will it make you happy? Because it will. You can do this with almost any example in life, and the end result is always happiness. Even when you consider things like love, making a difference, the reason is still happiness. But see how differently this conversation could have gone if I asked somebody who went about their career a little bit differently. Why did you become a teacher? I love working with kids. Why do you love working with kids? Oh, they make me happy. The farther you are from because it makes me happy, the farther you are from finding it. Happiness is not something that happens when you cross some finish line on your life. It's not something that happens when you finally get that promotion or buy that sports car. It didn't happen for me when I graduated high school and got accepted into college. In fact, I realized that I spent high school telling myself, well, college is going to be better. In college, I'll be happy. And I got to college, and I started telling myself, once I graduate, that's when I can be happy. Everything will be better once I graduate. And I realized that I was stuck in a cycle of chasing happiness and never allowing myself to find it. Happiness is something that you build through all seasons of your life, good and bad, and something that you stand by through life's hardest challenges. I'm sure, though, knowing my audience here at Bentley, that many of you are skeptical of my philosophical arguments. So let's talk about economics. In economics, there's a principle called the Easterling paradox. The Easterling paradox says basically that for a period of time, income and happiness vary directly with each other. That means the more you make, the happier you are. But there's a threshold where this is no longer the case, where additional income no longer increases your happiness in a meaningful way. And what is that threshold? $1 million, $2 million a year. Adjusted for inflation, and on average across the US, it's about $75,000. If you live in a developed country and you make at least $75,000 a year, your happiness is not going to increase in a meaningful way with each new raise or promotion. The average income for somebody at one of the Boston offices of the Big Four is $123,000. And you might be thinking, it's not like this additional income is going to make me less happy, but it very well could. We often define happiness as a healthy balance between labor and leisure. When you're working the hours required to make $123,000 a year, that line becomes blurred. Your weekends are no longer yours. Your mornings and nights are no longer sacred. And the expectation becomes that you are willing to sacrifice personal events, personal priorities, and rest for that career. How exhausted would you have to be to leave that career eventually? There's a couple of things that I would be remiss if I didn't address, and one of those is that this is a choice only available to the fortunate and well-resourced. There are people maybe in this crowd that don't have the option to choose a career that will make them happy because they are paying off student debt, taking care of a sick loved one, or even just taking care of a family. And those people are much more likely out of necessity to choose a high-paying job if they can find one over their happiness. Any of us would do that in their shoes. The most vital thing for them is to have an exit plan. That once that financially stable point comes, you leave. One of the biggest issues in these fields is that people get too comfortable in the lifestyle that they're living to leave. Thus my fear of waking up one day in my 50s and realizing I should have left 30 years ago. The second thing is that I'm not saying that immediate gratification should be prioritized over long-term goals. If you're trying to improve your GPA and studying would really help do that, but you would really be happy to scroll on TikTok for 5 hours, please don't scroll on TikTok for 5 hours. My argument is that when you have a choice point in your 5-year and 10-year plans between your well-being and your salary, choose yourself. Some people in this crowd are not going to be happy with the sentiment that I shared here today. Some will continue to grind until there's nothing left to grind away at. But this talk isn't for those people. This talk is for the people that on their way to finance class dream about becoming teachers and running nonprofits. For the people like me who believed that there was only one right way to have a career. I'm here today because you deserve to be happy. You deserve time to find things in life that light a fire in your soul. Don't let anybody take that away from you, not even yourself. Sometimes, both in life and in careers, a plot twist is all it takes to live happily ever after. In 2 years, I'm going to graduate from Bentley. And I'm going to choose a career where my weekends are mine and my mornings and nights are sacred. And next time I pass that house with the little yellow camper in the front yard, I'm going to buy it and I'm going to take that on-ramp onto the highway. I hope you do too. Thank you.